Hi guys, it's Carl Melvin here. So a lot of the issues that I deal with, whether it's family estrangement or any other issues within the family, what I found with my clients is that there's rarely a quick solution. They're rarely short-term problems. Very often they're long-term problems. And as a result, you may find you spend a huge amount of your life thinking about the situation obsessively, trying to imagine every worst case scenario, audition all the different problems that may happen in the future. And if there has been abuse or conflict or legitimate concerns about the health or maybe the well-being of somebody that you're estranged from, you may find that you're constantly in a fearful state, waiting for that worst case scenario to happen or waiting to what's going to happen next. And one thing I often encourage my clients, and I encourage you guys to do it as well, is to learn to park the situation, because there may not be a quick fix, there may not be a long-term resolution, or there may be no resolution at all, and that's an unfortunate reality I've seen for quite a bit. So you can imagine family, the whole dynamic of family, how it's perceived as being locked and there's no way of breaking it. All of a sudden there's estrangement, people are not talking. You could spend countless amount of hours obsessing over the situation, trying to find a solution, trying to find answers. All of a sudden a habit forms where it just becomes completely obsessional. You can't break it. It becomes your natural state to be thinking about family all of the time. It certainly isn't healthy. It takes up a huge amount of energy. I found with my clients that they're not present, because those windows when they're not thinking about work or thinking about their immediate family, their own kids, they're thinking about the family situation, and then they rarely find solutions in that state as well. So this video is a quick one, just 7 quick ways you might be able to park the situation. Again, I acknowledge how difficult it is to park it. I've been there, and some of these techniques or ideas I'm going to suggest are ones I've applied to myself and I've applied it with my clients, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but you try and find the one that works for you. Okay, just quickly about obsession. It's important to view it as a defense mechanism. So your mind is constantly craving security, peace of mind, it's craving a resolution so it can relax and it could move on with its life, or you can move on with your life. But unfortunately, this circumstance doesn't permit it. So your defense mechanisms are up, you're always on high alert, you're stressed, and it's chronic stress because you can't find a visible solution out of this situation. And that can lead to all manner of physical and mental health problems, which I am going to talk about in a separate video, not today. But it's important to be aware that it is your mind is doing its best to resolve the situation, and it isn't necessarily your mind's fault that this is happening. It's very much a byproduct of this circumstance and this unnatural conflict that happened within family. I mean, it isn't really a natural, it's become natural in that it's quite common, but really family is meant to be a unit of stability, not a unit of stress and conflict. It's also important to, when I think of obsessional thinking like that and how it can't be stopped, I often view it as a byproduct of enmeshment within families. And enmeshment is when our psychological reality and our emotions and our belief systems and our reactions to lives are still heavily entwined with family, or heavily entangled. Now, there's other terms similar to enmeshment. I know Murray Bowen, as a family theorist, he described it as fusion. I just use the word enmeshment because I always view it as a very complex web, that it's a very slow process to disentangle from that, so you can develop a sense of autonomy, so your life is not completely defined by your family. First way of helping you to park it is to recognize enmeshment. And whenever I see that obsessional thinking, constant rumination, imagining every fearful scenario, I always see it as a byproduct of codependency, which is driven from enmeshment within the family. Now, to be enmeshed in a family is not the worst thing in the world. If you were born into a healthy family, they would give you the stability, the peace of mind that you need to go off and live your life. They would be looking after themselves, so you don't need to worry. And they would also be facilitating autonomy and giving you permission to essentially go off and live your life. In an unhealthy family, they cannot do that. That permission isn't in them, that the peace of mind, the stability that you're looking for, they cannot provide that. And as a result, it's left to you to overly obsess and think about this situation. But just by recognizing that codependency inside of you, it may trigger a completely train of thought and a decision inside yourself that, no, I'm not thinking about this because I don't want to have that codependency in your life, and you want to strive for just a little bit more autonomy. Okay, Okay, so tip two is kind of an obvious one, but it's about setting boundaries, and it's very much mental boundaries in your head, so it doesn't completely take over your headspace, the situation with your family. One way you might do this, I've suggested this before, is just setting aside a 30-minute window, so you will only allow yourself to think about your family within those 30 minutes. It could be 7 to half 7, 8 to half 8, whatever time that's appropriate to you. It may be just before bed, although I'd encourage you to give you some time between stop thinking about family and going to bed, because it may take over your headspace lying down in bed. Again, it's difficult to do. It does require a lot of willpower, because this situation is going to pop into your head at different points over the course of the day. We all have our triggers, but it's having the willpower and the discipline aside of yourself to be able to park it in that window. What actually worked for me probably the most was journaling, and I used to always have a notepad beside me no matter where I was, just to jot down what was on my mind, and it facilitated a little bit of analysis, gone into a little bit of depth about what's on my mind, but then I could close the notepad, park it, and get back to work. I had tons of notepads at one point. I literally used to write so much, but I actually found it very useful. A little moments of awareness, little aspects of the situation dynamic with my own family, which I hadn't realised before. I was able to write it down, and then I could reflect on it with a bit of purpose. So not in an obsessional way, but in a way where there may be an outcome, or at least some kind of a resolution. So the next tip is active relaxation, and it's actually teaching yourself how to relax yourself and building a stress reduction plan. And it is quite difficult. It may be counter to how you're actually feeling at the moment, and it may be if chronic stress has been a problem in your life because of the family situation, it may be incredibly difficult to break that, bring your body back into its natural relaxed state. One thing I might encourage people to do is go to your doctor, get a full checkup, get your bloods tested. You may be deficient in certain minerals and vitamins. It may be zinc, it may be magnesium. I don't know. You have to go to your doctor and find out, but just go to a healthcare professional. They may give you a bit more direction about what you can do to get a handle over your body, which subsequently have an effect on calming your mind, and maybe find that you're thinking about the situation just a little bit less. Next tip is to creating a list, a priority list in your life of all of the aspects of your life which are important to you. I find sometimes that something external to ourselves can be useful, like some visual aid or a visual cue, just to remind ourselves to stop thinking about family. So it could be just a straightforward list of the top 10 things in your life which are important to you. It could be your kids number one, your partner number two, your job, your health, your friends, whatever it is. But be truthful, and if you find that your family is number one, put it number one on the list and print it off or write it down and put it up in a word. At least it will remind you or help you build more awareness into your life that you've put them as a priority over everybody else. Another thing I often get my clients to do is get them to draw a circle like a pizza, and make segments in this circle to represent each family member, or each situation in their life and all the different aspects of their life, and then they can decide the size of the segment or the size of the piece of slice represents the amount of energy you're giving it. Now, it could be something like this. I just threw this together on Microsoft Word, and again, this is quite common. If you can see it on the video, in this example, family represents 46% of this person's energy, which I would argue it could be good, it could be bad. If it's a healthy family and you're just looking forward to spending time with them and making plans with them, it's okay. But if it's fear, if it's anxiety, if they're all fear-driven thoughts which are taking up so much of your energy, I would argue that segment should be a lot smaller. So, but the main thing is to pick something that is visual, that you can have in front of you, and just as a reminder, as some kind of cue that I need to stop thinking about this family, and this is the effect that all this thinking is having on me and my life and all the other aspects of your life. So the next tip is create a project. It doesn't have to be a big project. It could be something quite small. For me, I went back to college. I decided to study psychotherapy. That was a big project. It wasn't small. The second I started creating my website, toxicescape.com. Again, that was me in reinvesting energy that I had invested in the family back into my life, and something that I wanted to create that was unique to me, and I was an expression of me and my views and my personality and everything else. And I would encourage the same for you. Try and find something, a goal that, again, is something that's outside of you. It may be even something that enhances the lives of other people. maybe not. It could be art, it could be photography. It doesn't matter as long as it's congruent to you. It matches you, your goals, and what you like doing, and what you may enjoy investing more time in it. Again, it may be difficult at the start, but if you take on a project, especially going back to college, because there's deadlines, there's students around you who they're all doing essays, you feel the pressure to do that as well. That actually helped me. For some, it may be too much stress. For me, it was just right. So again, it's finding the right project that matches your stress levels, your time, your energy, your financial situation, but do something. The next tip, use your support. You're there for you. If you have people in your life, if you're lucky to have people in your life who you can talk to, you can share your fears, share your ideas, and who react in a positive way. Don't just kind of feed off your fears by throwing more fear into the situation, coming up all these hypothetical situations, which probably won't happen. You need to find the right support, but if you have it, engage with it. They're useful, and it may feel like you're over talking about a situation. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, again, your friends do serve a certain role, and again, I'm going to do this in a separate video, how you help somebody through estrangement. Their role is as much to set boundaries as anything else. So their job, there's multiple aspects of supporting somebody. Validation is important, okay? So if you're feeling a lot of guilt because of what might happen or what has happened, your self-esteem is going to be low. Your friends or your support or whoever is there for you, their job is to pick you up, say that you've no reason to feel guilty, you don't need to be fearful, and their job is to challenge all these feelings, but in a way which is respectful. But their job is also to set clear boundaries. Say, no, we're not talking about it tonight. I know it's on your mind, but we need to have fun tonight. We need to talk about other things, and there's nothing wrong with that either, because that's just a boundary that you may need as well. Especially if that train of thought is flowing constantly, you may need an external person to put a blocker on it short term, so you can at least think about something else, even if it's counter, even if it doesn't feel natural for you to not think about family. Having other people around you may be motivation enough. But the worst thing is sitting at home on your own and just thinking about the situation, because you will not find answers that way, especially if you're invited out to social events. And I've seen this before. I've done it myself. There's been times when I didn't feel like it because I was in this state of thinking about the situation, and I didn't think I'd be any use. I knew I wouldn't be present, but I kind of surprised myself sometimes where I actually was able to go out and actually engage in conversations and be interested in other people's lives. Now, obviously, that got easier as I progressed down estrangement, and I'd done more work on myself emotionally and looked at the root of the obsessional thinking. But for now, engage with your social support, talk to them, don't be afraid, but also listen to them if they're trying to set boundaries. Okay, last tip. This is probably the most difficult, and what I often do with my clients is to imagine if they were born into a different family, a family of parents or siblings who were healthier. How would they view your obsession now? Would they want you thinking about your family all of the time? Would they want you stressing as much as you are, or would they rather see you off living your life, looking after yourself, looking after your kids, looking after your job, following your goals? Now, you might do creative visualization, you might use imagination, you might just decide for yourself, no, this is not the parents that I wish I had, this is not how I would want them to be. Now, what gets in the way of that process is reality, the reality of who your family are and how they actually are towards you, how they really feel towards you, or how they've treated you in the past. And that bridge is a huge bridge to gap, and I wouldn't force this on people. It helped me, to be quite honest with you. It may not help other people, but I would imagine the people I'm estranged from, if they were in a healthier place themselves, would they want me to feel this way, this stress, this unhappy? Would they want me staying in, not talking to people? Would they want me withdrawn and disconnected from my social network? No, they wouldn't. And sometimes that's motivation enough for people to decide, yeah, I want to stop thinking about this, and I'm going to try and just look after myself a little bit better. That's it, guys. 7 quick tips. Please share the video if it helps somebody that you know. My email is carl@toxicescape.com. I'll try to get back to people as quickly as possible. Again, I spoke before, support groups are going to be happening in the new year. There'll be online workshops, webinars happening in the new year. So shoot me an email. I'll keep you on the mail list. And that's it. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.